How are we doing, folks? Niall Greenan here, Zenith Strength and Mobility. I've got the great Dan John here with us. Do you want to introduce yourself, Dan?
I'm the great Dan John.
There you go, you got it. So, I have had the unbelievable experience and luxury of being over in Salt Lake City, or Murray, which is near Salt Lake City in Utah, doing a bit of learning, spending a bit of time with this legend whose books I've been reading for 10 years or so now. Give us a wee bit of background about yourself, Dan. You were a high school teacher and football coach and stuff for a long time. How did you transition into being this well-renowned guy you are now?
Well, I mean, I started lifting weights in 1965, and thinking about my next article I'm putting together is my first trophy comes from 1967, so that's 50 years of performance. And you know, I competed 2 weeks ago in a weightlifting meet, so it's a long time. And
it's a lot of experience.
Grew up loving sports, and read a couple of books about when I was about 13 or so that kind of changed my whole life. And so even when I was in college, I was a very, very good student academically, but I also was a discus thrower. I was an MVP on our track team at college, and you know, did really well. And then I got a job teaching history, and because I had a master's in it, and but I always coached. I've always coached my whole life. It's funny, you bumped into Jake the other day. Jake was one of my students at Judge, and graduated in '91, and yet he jokes about being one of my guinea pigs, you know. And yet, you know, so my whole life I've always coached the weights for free, coached the throws for free, American football. And as time went on, I started, when the internet first came out, I had a buddy named Tamer Katz, who said that the internet's being run by these guys who believed in high intensity training, one set to failure. And he said, you got to start a blog the website to kind of counteract it, because there was only about 2 or 3. So in 1998, I started my first website. And the funny thing is, the stuff I said there and the stuff I said in 1967, 77, 87, 97 were all the same. And now in 2017, people think it's revolutionary stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a nutshell. And people started asking me to do workshops, and I did, and I enjoyed it.
Who was your first workshop with? Who were you?
In strength, for strength would be Charles Staley's Boot Camp 2003. For discus throwing, it'd be I did a series of workshops for Gill Athletics in the early '90s, I guess. I traveled all around the Midwest doing workshops in discus throw.
And then you got involved with you know, a couple of they're not promotions. What would you call them? Like Strong First and RKC.
RKC, yeah, Russian Kettlebell, yeah. Well, that would be a little bit later. That'd be 2007, 2008, and then I became a master instructor for them, and I've enjoyed that. There's issues always, you know, when you teach a 3-day cert, you know how it's a lot of information, a lot of time, a lot of territory. It's been good. I've done. It's a rare weekend I don't travel.
Yeah, so you're telling me it sounds rough. I always thought I'd love to travel for work, but this has beat me up coming over here, even though I've enjoyed every moment of it. Well, no, your workshops, you know, they're renowned. Like all my sort of peers in Belfast, we have a nice community. They're all kind of friends, even though, you know, like we don't see each other as competitors. A nice community, and it's a great environment to spend time in. And your workshops are always highly regarded. So we'll hopefully could bring you over some point next year. It'll be exciting to get you back to Ireland. Let's talk a wee bit about your attitude to training. You know, you were the first person. Now it gets batted about a lot, and it's how we do it in our gym. Everything we do is based around your work. You know, the bulk of it. Talk to us a bit about your methodology of push, pull, squat, hinge, carry, because that's not the way people used to, or certainly when I learned weight training, that's not how I looked at it.
Yeah, the biggest problem we have is that since 1975, bodybuilding has become the paradigm, the worldview of how we train people.
Yeah, very much.
And so arm day, and then it first was arm day, leg day. And then it became, you know, biceps day and triceps day, and then so it's what we call Frankenstein monster training. You're just a bunch of body parts.
Yeah.
Well, I've been pushing back against that. You know, you look at people's workouts, you'll see that they have 237 pushes in a week and 115 pulls, which is, by the way, the number I came up with. And then 25 squats. And you look at that and you say, don't you see them? Well, I use the word push. Someone will raise your hand. Well, what about vertical and horizontal? My point always is, are you telling me males in your gym don't do enough pushing?
Yeah.
Really? They don't do enough curls? Is that really the issue we're having here? And of course not. So I tossed out the vertical you know, the vertical and the horizontal, because I thought it was redundant. You can figure that out, you know,
Yeah.
in a 6-week period, just change it. But then I noticed there was, and this is from the book Easy Strength, is when I first talk about it, the difference between a hinge and a squat. Now it's funny because it's just, I'll go on to Facebook and I'll say, you know, and I'll read literally the quote that I said in Easy Strength for the first time, and they're quoting somebody else.
Yeah.
Which is fine because we're all master thieves in this industry.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I knew how to teach the squat really well, but I wasn't very good at teaching the hinge, because as an Olympic lifter, the hinge comes to us so naturally. Well,
Yeah.
most people don't come from that background.
No,
Need to learn.
particularly in the part of the world we're from, it's very few and far between that actually know the Oli lifts, compared to you guys here in the States.
Okay.
You know, once you're an athlete, it's a big part of your program.
Yeah. And then on the loaded carries, I had blown this wrist apart in 8 pieces, and I couldn't do anything. And my friend Mike Rosenberg sent me some equipment to use to carry. And then pretty soon I noticed that when I started doing, I had a broken wheelbarrow and I stuck chunks of cement in it. You know, old pieces of rock and any piece of crap.
Yeah.
And I would drag it with a rope, and that was interesting. Then I'd pick up some heavier stuff. Then I found a big bag and I carried that. It was actually originally 3 salt bags. I was carrying my house at once. And I noticed as I was going up the stairs, I had to do this. You know,
Yeah, I learned that the other day, carrying your sandbag.
And so that's when I came up with loaded carries, which is funny because, you know, when I first came up with them, and I've certainly heard, I mean, the early strong men were doing them, and the dinosaur training guys were doing them. And so certainly I didn't invent it, but all of a sudden I realized that this
Popularized
is the missing link
Yeah.
for most people. And then we consider anything else the 6 movement. And
Yeah.
you'll notice that when we train our gym, we do a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you'll notice that, you know, we only really count. The push-pull hinge squat, we try to do every day. You'll notice that we did it today.
Yep, we did do it.
Even though it was none of it was hard today, we still did it. And then the loaded carries we do every day somehow.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just everything else. And
Yeah.
so we try to stay focused on the fundamentals, and then everything else gets you conditioning and all the other qualities.
And pepper it and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it really is, folks. You know, it's like making a good meal. You know, a good stew, a good soup. You know, you start off with the essentials, and then you find whatever you have in the kitchen, throw it in there. That's why a good stew, a good jambalaya, a good pot meal, you never really reproduce because it's different vegetables.
Yeah.
It's like when we're making our little Greek salad we've been having every night.
Yeah.
It's a little different every time.
A wee tweak, but it's still the same core.
Yeah, but
of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
That's something we would sort of talk to our members in the gym about, is that, you know, I actually remember a week or two ago said, are we squatting again today? We squatted yesterday, and I said, well, if you think back over the last X number of whatever, we squat every day. Now, not every day is a hard working squat day, and that was a quote I took from one of your first books I read, and it was, if it's important to you, do it every day. So the likes of today, our squatting was just easy, kind of warm-up-y type stuff, and then I really worked hard at the hinge. You had me swinging the beast and stuff, but I thought it was a really interesting way, and I'm glad it's become popular. Another big missing link that we found in the gym, everyone has came in, they've done sort of press and a pull and a squat, but we spent a lot of time teaching what we learned from you, the goat bag swing, so that loaded hinge, holding some sort of weight against your chest. And we find just making people hinge makes everything so much better, you know?
Well, you know, with our gym, we have you saw, I mean, I spent a full 5 minutes on the hip thrust today. 5 30-second bouts, right? Or something like that, well, whatever it worked out to be. But so we hinged a lot today. You were swinging the beast.
Yeah.
So we're hinging in all these different ways.
Yep.
You know, if you're front squatting, I'm goblet squatting, and Mike's overhead squatting, we're all squatting.
Yeah.
But we're at different places.
At different intensities, you know, my goblet squats maybe going to be restorative, tonic for my workout tomorrow, you know, and then you're over there working your ass off front squatting. So yeah, no, I thought that looking at it like that, training movements rather than muscles, I thought, you know, it's been revolutionary, certainly among the type of trainers I rub shoulders with there in Belfast, and we do have a good group. You know most of them, and it's good because we're all
Night Ollie.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of them are watching. There's Joe, and I know Michael Lennon's watching. But yeah, we all love your stuff, and all the guys you rub shoulders with stuff. So Dan very kindly, I mistakenly said in the article it was his last book. It's not. He's had 2 books since. This is the book Before We Go. He very kindly gave me a copy of it when I got here, and I've just been consuming it as fast as I can. If any of you are familiar with Dan's work, it's extremely easy reading. He he was sitting doing his emails this morning. I'm sitting on the couch reading it. I don't know if you noticed. I like giggled like several times. It's enjoyable to read, and I would say even if you're not a personal trainer, if you've any interest at all in health and fitness, his stuff's really worth reading. You know, you would read a lot of like what I call real literature, you know, the classics and stuff like that, and it comes across in your writing. But you know, this book, you have a workshop called the Art of Coaching, and you said someone who sort of spent a lot of time, you released a book called The Art of Coaching. From the sort of 2/3 of this book I've consumed so far, you very easily could have named this book The Art of Reasonableness. Would that be fair enough?
That was the original title.
Oh, well, actually, was it?
It was called Reasonableness.
Right. Well, it's actually it talks a lot, and this is something I spoke about this reasonableness when it comes to diets. If any of you would watch my videos regularly, you would have heard me say before that what we try and do is give you as good a diet as you can stick to. Now, I could give you the fastest.
That's great.
Yeah. Because some people want their. It's kind of like your continuum for diet as well. Some
The
people,
little arrow, Mark's arrow, yeah.
Some people think if they're not doing like a bodybuilding style diet, you know, when it's everything's Tupperware and everything's repetitive, if they're not doing that, they're not on the diet. So I sort of developed like a rev counter in your car, and if you can keep the average
perfect
at 4,000 RPM. And so I would always talk to our members and our followers on the page about just having a reasonable diet and lifestyle. So talk to us a wee bit about, you know, your take on reasonable training.
Reasonable training. Well, it's actually, if you don't mind, let's do the whole quadrant.
Sure.
Okay, because that's important. So I'll put 4 words up on the board. Sometimes I'll talk about Beowulf, and I'll have warrior and king. You know, in Beowulf, warriors live in the pure present, and kings are past, present, future. So really, what the thought here is that there's a warrior diet. There's a book called The Warrior Diet, but if you do something like the Velocity diet, which is 6 protein shakes a day, and that's it, nothing else.
Yeah, sounds
I mean, you know, if you can do that, then I've done it, and so I can talk about it. It's really tough, but that's not reasonable. It's not.
Yeah.
But if I said I want you to eat more vegetables, more protein, and drink more water, you'd go, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
So that'd be more a kingly approach. So let's use the words tough and reasonable then. So what most people think they can do is a tough diet and a tough workout.
That's where people want to be.
And it's insane.
Yeah, it is.
They want to be on the Velocity diet, the Soviet squat program, where you're doing 6 sets of 6 with 80%, you know, that kind of thing. You can't do it. But that's what people think they can do.
Yeah.
There are times I think it's valuable to do a tough workout with a reasonable diet. So you're eating, you're eating your squares, however you work out, you know, wherever you are on your tack or on your arrow, that's fine. But you might be, you're gearing up for something, maybe a contest or, you know, just, for example, you're on a program because you have a weakness. I understand that. I see you can do that about once a month. And then there are times where I can see you can do reasonable workouts and a tough diet. Like maybe you had a wedding or a New Year's or something like that, and you porked up over a couple week period. Not crazy, you know, not 30 kilos, but 3 or 4 or 5 kilos heavier. And you decide, listen, I got to tighten it up.
Yeah.
So I think that's okay too. You can do that about once a year too.
Yep.
But really, if you went into the gym 2-3 times a week and did the fundamental human movements, and you went for a walk 4 days a week, and then you had I don't know, 8, 9, 10 glasses of water every day and vegetables at every single. You notice I eat veggies at every meal.
Yep.
Every meal.
Yep.
Eat vegetables at every meal. Is that pretty reasonable?
Yeah. It's just find that sweet spot all the time.
Yeah. So reasonable workouts with reasonable diets over time are far better than these attempts to fix everything in a 3, 4, 5, 6 week period.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm to the point now that I cannot even recommend it. I can't. When someone says I want to do a program, I almost say no. Want to do a diet, I almost say no. And if you read my Now What book, I go into some detail on this, but it's the idea that when people are talking to you as a trainer or coach, they're not really talking to you. They're telling you what they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
And until you grasp that, they say, I'll do anything to lose these 5 kilos. Well, okay, anything? Okay, how about you show up for the next 52 weeks, 3 days a week, and drink 2 glasses of water. Well, what kind of water? Tap water. Oh, how much where should I put it? They will push back and push back and push back because what they say and what they want are night and day. Hard lesson learned. We can go in that more depth if you want, but that might be for another time. Yeah.
No, well, I thought it was brilliant. It jumped out at me. It's something we very much preach and promote in our gym. Is not. I can't remember who the quote was by, so I apologise to whoever it was by. I don't know if they're going to read it backwards.
I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good.
I solemnly swear I'm up to no good.
I've been up to a bit of no good from I've been over here. Good few beers. But anyway, the quote, and it's something I try and remind people, just because sometimes I know people feel, oh, I could have or should have, or feel like I wanted to go way, way harder on that workout. And a great quote I heard was, in the gym, you should go hard enough to elicit adaptation, not exhaustion. And I think there's definitely a culture of going to war, arriving at the gym, ready to rock. And if you're not crawling out of the gym, that workout's worthless. I'd say the opposite way around. Would you agree? If you always flog yourself, that's going to end up very quickly being worthless.
No. What really helps, what helps my perspective on this is I'm a performance coach. I work with athletes or people who have to turn on at July 23rd at 9 a.m. in Sacramento the day of the Nationals. Mm-hmm. So when you work with performance, if you're beating the hell out of yourself in training, you'll notice you don't perform when your name is called. Mm-hmm. So what I've done in my career is I've looked at why was a good coach with performance and yet struggling with people with simple stuff, the simpler stuff like fat loss and easy health issues, is because I had this notion always that we are building up to something.
Yeah.
And most people want now.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
And in fact, now probably isn't fast enough. Mm-hmm. It's that joke from Something About Mary where the guy goes, I think it's the 8-minute ab workout or something like that. And he just goes off. He's a lunatic. If that doesn't do it, we'll give you the extra minute for free. 8 minutes, honestly. If we had an 8-minute workout, most people wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it. It's still too much. So you really got to. One of the hardest things to get used to when you're in this business is you got to start thinking of your clients more like is kindergarten. Okay, with that.
Yeah, like a primary school or nursery.
Nursery school.
Yeah.
Okay, so nursery school. And when you're working with clients, they want calculus and they want nuclear physics. But what they need to is learn is 1 and 1 is 2.
Yeah.
Well, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then learn that 1 plus 1 is 2. Then learn that 3 minus 2 is 1. Then learn that 3 times 3 is 9.
Yeah.
And it is a process to build themselves up. It is getting yourself, especially if you're churning your life around, you let yourself get 50, 60 kilos overweight. That process of turning that Titanic, I always use the word Titanic, it works better for the Belfast.
We understand it, yeah.
You understand even better. If they would have saw the iceberg, 45 minutes earlier, the correction would have been this.
Yep.
That's the correction. The longer they waited, the more and more the correction became more and more and more.
Yep.
So if you're 21 years old and you put on a kilo, the correction is this. Mm-hmm. Don't drink beer Friday and Saturday nights until you vomit and pass out. Just vomit. The correction's pretty easy to make.
Yeah.
If you put on 15 kilos and now you're 30, we have to turn the wheel a little harder. If it's 60 kilos and you're 60, we really have to spin the wheel if we're going to even make it work. Mm-hmm. And so my whole vision of things is try to get people where they are, treat them like, I hate to say it by children, but treat them like children and slowly get that wheel to turn back.
Yeah. And
I think the mistake we make with a lot of people, is that, it's the 90-day, 30-day, 6-week boot camp, turn your life around, look at me, before and after pictures that are faked.
Yeah.
And it's not a true solution.
Yeah.
But
used to have that longevity.
So, in my Wandering Weights this week, and I talked to you about it yesterday, there's this thing from Dr. Charles Elliott called the Harvard 5-Foot Shelf of Books. And he believed that even if you had no education, that if you spent 15 minutes a day reading the great works and diving into all 5 feet of books, 15 minutes a day, by the end of a certain period, you will have read the greatest of world scholarship, literature, stories, myths, fables, the whole bit, poetry, songs. And when I tell people 15 minutes a day, you could read all the great classics of Western civilization, there's always pushback. Because the books, it's 5 feet of books. But yeah, but 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And so I think in our field, we need to take a hint from Charles Eliot from 1890 and say, yeah, I'm asking you for 15 minutes a day over a 10, 15, 20-year period.
Yeah.
But what people want to do is what you said, gas themselves, completely blow in one day.
Yeah.
And most people, it's the old cliche, everyone knows this, but most people think they can do this in one day and this in a year. They overthink what they can do in one day, and they underthink what they can do a year. But if you decided to walk 15 minutes a day for a year, you would have changes.
Yeah, big time.
If you decided to eat a vegetable at every meal, there would be changes, noticeable changes. But it's like I was reading this thing online about this girl. She goes, I decided to drink apple cider vinegar for 14 days, and here's what happened to me. And so of course I read it because I'm a fish, you know. They hooked me. And she goes, I felt no changes at all. I thought, and my first response was, 14 days.
Yeah.
14 days drinking a shot of apple cider vinegar. It was such a classic moment of American consumers. I did something for 14 days and I found no change. 14 days.
Yeah.
It's the modern world we live in. It's insane. People just want it like that, and they don't want to just put any longevity and, you know, fight or put the long game into work.
Drives me crazy.
It's madness. Well, I've taken so many useful hints and tips from your book, and one of the things that you talk a lot about on this will be useful for a lot of our viewers is the notion of, you wrote it in your book that I read with Josh Hillis, was it? Fat Loss Happens Monday. And something along the lines of one of the most important training sessions of the week is basically food, shop, and prep.
Well, his thought is this: the most important training session of the week is the shop. You know, that's the day you should eat a meal, take all your, you know, drink your stimulants, whatever stimulant you need, slap yourself across the face, chalk up, get that music going on in your head, you know, and aggressively go shop.
Yeah.
Come home and chop. Just get really into it. Because that shop and chopping the food, making the pre-made food for, you know, I don't know, maybe 10 or 14 small meals in a week that you can just pull out of the fridge and eat. Long term, that will do more for you than all the nonsense in the gym.
Because everyone knows that phrase, and it's true. You know, the exact percentage could be debated over, but you know, it's, if you want to change your body, it's 80% diet. You know, so why not give that diet prep more?
Yeah, actually, so as a trainer, one of the hardest things to put your mind on is that of the things that will increase fat loss, 19 out of 20 are we're in my kitchen right now, happen in my kitchen.
Well, there you go. That's 95% diet.
Here's the thing. I said for fat loss, but for all the other great qualities of life, I can make such a difference. Because if I can make you feel better, move more, all those other little, we call it the hormonal cascade here. You know, you hit your body with a workout, and then this little spark, that Tim Anderson's phrase, that one snowflake that starts an avalanche.
Yeah.
So what we can do in the exercise side is we can start the avalanche of the hormones. So even though we're only good for 19 out of 20, 1 out of 20 for fat loss, we can also we're the system that builds up everything else, so that it's not, even though, okay, you only lost 1 kilo of fat, but you put on 1 kilo of muscles, and you look better, feel better, move better.
You
put
age
on,
better.
Yeah, you lose 5 kilos of fat and put on 5 kilos of lean muscle. You don't even look like the same person.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So even though we're only good for once, you have to be careful. For the discussion of fat loss, it does happen in the kitchen. But doing it in the kitchen alone ends up making people skinny fat.
Yeah.
Which is, you'll look good in clothes, but you won't move well, feel well.
Yeah.
Lindsay Lohan, she was kind of the poster girl for that for a while. Lindsay Lohan was a famous actress. There's a picture of her from the show Mean Girls that became one of the most popular thing ever she's in a bikini or swimsuit in Mean Girls, and every little adolescent boy at the time lost their mind. And then a few years later, she did some pictures where she had become skinny fat.
Yeah.
So she looked okay in clothes, but brutal in any other way. And skinny fat is an issue. You know, you lose 5 kilos of fat, and everything just kind of droops off you.
Well, if you don't give your body,
you lose 5 kilos of fat.
yeah, which is a lot harder to do, and you don't give your body, if you're not sort of lifting things up and setting them down again, you're not giving your body that stimulus to hold on to the muscle you have or even build. And that's where
Hormonal cascade.
And apart from that, like, you know, anyone who exercises, certainly the ones in our gym understand it, and I imagine most of the people who watch this, if you don't exercise, it's not good for your head, it's not good for your body. The human body was not designed to be idle, and we're very quickly as a species becoming more and more and more idle. So it's good that, you know, people are preaching this reasonable exercise. And cause sometimes I think people think, oh, I can't be arsed getting back in the gym, it's just madness. I go and this trainer screams at me and it's so hard, and you know, but if you can take that reasonable, balanced approach to nutrition and life and spend time with friends and family.
It's not sexy.
No, that's the thing, and that's why people aren't interested in it, because pre-workouts and 6-week transformation and, you know, puking and all-out war, that's sexy. That's
it is, you know, and you know, in the slide, I use some slides in my workshops. That I have one is I'm standing with a group of guys whose faces are all blacked out because I have to. That's okay. If you want to talk about that, join the military and become one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that when we take your picture, we have to blacken your face out, your name, any stripes and stuff on, and they're all carrying these very large weapons. Okay, those guys, their work, yes, their life depends on their workouts.
Yeah.
For the rest of you, sorry, you're writing, we phrase it in America, you're writing checks you can't cash. Down the line, you're going to pay a high price for that idiocy.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Dan John. I'm paying a high price for my idiocy.
I also love, just on that reasonableness as well, kind of, again, my members will be used to this phrase, that the park bench and the bus bench. I'll quickly just, or do you want to go? You go ahead and explain the analogy.
I've never heard him before.
Explain.
The late Archbishop George Niederauer, I used to have, my office was right above his, and I'm reading an article one time, and he talks about 2 kinds of prayers. Bus bench prayers, where you're telling God, I need this. And there's park bench prayers where you just say, you know, it's a nice day. Thanks for everything. Well, I took that idea instantly, and of course I wrote a little note, is this really you? And he sent the note back, said, yeah, and they spelled my name wrong. That's what I thought was hilarious. Great man, really great man. And so I ran with that. And the idea is there's 2 kind of workouts. There's bus bench, which is, well, you better get, the bus better show up. So if you're doing the 6-week Soviet squat program, at the end of the 6 weeks, you better go up in your squat.
There's expectation on the bus bench.
Oh.
There's something definite is going to happen.
The V diet, the velocity diet.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't lose fat in those 28 days, 6 protein shakes a day, you know, you go punch Chris Shugart in the mouth, you know? So there's an expectation. That's what most people have. But in my career, I have found it doesn't help with your traditional fat loss client, nor, and this bothers many people, does it help with your athletes.
You were saying that this morning.
What helps with the athletes is what we call a park bench program. We show up, we move, we do the fundamental movements. Yeah, we do a couple things that are hard, but you did that hard little combination today, but were you gassed after it? I mean,
no, like reality, not the way I was gassed on Sunday.
But you rallied right up, and you
yeah.
did. We worked our arms today.
Yeah.
I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but you know, we worked our arms.
It's kind of big.
I kind of don't want to make a big deal out of it. But the nice thing is that when you have this, the idea, and I'm coming back tomorrow, and I want to work out again, and then I'm going to come back on Thanksgiving Day and work out again, and Friday I'm going to work out again, and again and again and again. I'm not going to fail at all in the gym, because if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail with an official there and 2 officials there.
Exactly.
And they're going to, I don't mind failing or getting hurt. Truth, this sounds weird. I'm okay with getting hurt in competition, because you're right on the edge.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to get hurt in competition. I'm just saying, if you're going to get hurt and you're getting hurt, and you, like this last meet, I pulled my sartorius muscle. Don't be 60. I pulled my sartorius muscle snatching, but I'm okay with that because I was going for a state record.
Yeah.
And I caught it funny. I got twisted underneath my leg. Just, you know, I'm not 59 anymore. You know, back in the day.
You look it though. You do look.
I look 59.
Yeah,
I
very
look
much
59.
so.
That's good. Thanks. That means a lot. But my thought is, as a coach, is that we're going to build up, build up, build up, build up, build up. So if you decide to perform, you've got this massive foundation. But if I'm constantly taking a machete and chopping off the blocks of your foundation, it gets to be a very, very, very thin line. Are there people writing this?
These ones are. These ones are
Oh.
Instagram.
Do people have questions or anything?
There was our friend Joe O'Donnell, who
Yeah.
he's kind of my nemesis when it comes to videos. He just comes on to distract me.
Does he?
Yeah, there's friend Peter. Just a lot of comments. Does anybody have any questions for Dan while we're here?
They're free
Yeah, there you go.
today.
If anyone has any questions, just throw them up. But people who are familiar with you know, our work in Zenith and the same, you know, hybrid, Dan McCaff, No Limits Fitness, you know, Park, I don't want to not name Paul Murray stuff, you know, the sort of circle that we kind of run in. People are very familiar with with Dan's work.
But it's hard for some. See, even though you're hearing it, you have to. You're not going to grasp the concept of reasonable workouts or park bench workouts, because, and it's not. By the way, it's not contrarian. It's not like I'm. This is the way we saw the strength coaching side and conditioning for generations until bodybuilding showed up.
But bodybuilding is, you know, artificially enhanced most of the time, supernatural humans, and because of the anabolics they take, and look, I'm not knocking bodybuilding, it is what it is, but it's just not my bag, it's not Dan's bag. Because of their, you know, supplementation, shall we call it, it is about going to war when you're a bodybuilder, and that's why, as you say, it's become the paradigm. You know, for the average person, we much more have to go, you know, Dan's route, you know, the reasonable. Let me give another example of reasonable and park bench, bus bench. So at the minute in our gym, we're running a 21-day festive fat furnace challenge in-house just for our members. And they're kind of going bus bench nutrition at the minute, whereas the rest of the year round, we just advise park bench nutrition. So if you go to Starbucks on a Wednesday afternoon and you want to have a brownie with your friends, grand, do it, you know, maybe have less carbs at dinner time or just, you know, whatever, no big deal. But at the minute we're very much, we have expectations. We're doing this 3-week thing. I'm keeping an eye on all the guys on WhatsApp, and I can see the weights coming off them. It's because they went from probably diet being 60-70% good to now being 95% perfect. And again, you know, I'm in the industry 12 years now. Dan, you know, you've been throwing weights about and for 50 and, you know, coaching at a high level for almost that long. It took me to read many of Dan's books and attend his workshops and spend all this time. It takes time for this to sink in. And we're talking this morning about, you know, advice you were given or things you learned years ago, and it took you a long time to actually let them sink in. And it was the same for me. And, you know, if we could say on today, it would be like, you know, take these as gospel. We're giving this information to help you, you know, like, so don't feel you have to go into the gym and absolutely go to war and crawl out and maybe hurt yourself. Would you agree?
Well, you saw our workout today. I thought yesterday I donate blood as often as I can. And yesterday I did a thing called Power Red. So they take 2 whole units of blood out of me, but they give me the plasma back. So I'm down, a lot of blood down. And so they tell you, you know, don't do anything stupid for a few days. It's funny, just standing up quickly, I get a little, so it's kind of nice. I enjoy it. So today, and we had a very tonic workout in our tradition. But wouldn't you say you learned a few things?
Yeah, definitely.
The TRX hypertrophy warm up.
Yeah.
The original strength stuff we did.
Which is great. I want to talk about that briefly in a moment.
We did. We worked our pythons.
Yeah, we did.
Armacondas.
Armacondas is right.
But we also did a 10-minute, 30 on, 30 off. I chose 2 very reasonable exercises, and yet we worked hard. But you're not. Could you do it again right now?
Yeah, no problem.
No problem. So the idea is that we keep coming back, keep coming back, and your body never goes into that cortisol inflammation shot. When I have a total hip replacement, and the first thing people noticed after the surgery is my face wasn't so red anymore, because the amount of inflammation you get from being injured is through the roof.
It's very interesting.
So a lot of your clients, it's nice to work with the Irish because they red up when they're inflamed.
We show it hard, yeah.
No, so it's good.
Yeah.
Because so I used to tell coaches, how do you check your high school boys for overtraining? And I always say, it's acne.
Right.
and because the skin is the largest organ in the body, and if out of nowhere you start seeing big strips of acne showing up in your athletes, they're overtrained. And they say, how do you know that? I go, God, don't you look? I mean, how do you assess people? So, okay, yeah, so I do assess my athlete's skin. There is no skin assessment in my assessment, but it is something you notice. If out of nowhere you see someone getting, their eyes are really puffy and there's obvious signs they've been partying too much, you assess that. You look at that. Is it okay if I just run and check those beeps real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks. I'll be right back.
So yeah, we're just gonna, when Dan comes back in a wee second, I want to talk about his sort of attitude, something that I've done a bit of with him and a good friend of his down in his sort of infamous home garage here. We've done some groundwork. Some of you guys will be familiar with it, kind of mobility. But again, I've read it. I've read the books of these guys who wrote it. I've read it in Dan's books. But again, just sort of seeing it in first hand, I just learned so much more about it. So let's talk briefly about that groundwork we did this morning. You were saying about the sort of lymphatic system and things like 6-point rocks, things that maybe your average person might look at and go, "What the fuck are we doing this for?
Yeah.
This is pointless."
Well, for us, groundwork is okay, well, how do I say this? Authentic squats, deep squats. Lack of loaded carry, lack of groundwork. Those are the missing pieces almost universally in gyms. In my age, the cohort I'm in the United States, 28,000 Americans die from fall and fall-related injuries. Statistically, something interesting to hear about in the United States, and I don't know about other countries. I have got cancer in my leg 2 years ago, and statistically, in my age cohort, it's better to have cancer than it is to fall, statistically over a 2-year period. So, but you never see people on the ground.
Yeah.
So one thing I recommend, that's why I have people do hip thrusts throughout our workouts, getting them up and down off the ground. The rolling we do, up and down off the ground, up and down off the ground. So that's just kind of number one. It's not just to prevent, well, yes, it does help prevent injuries from falls, and falls, that kind of thing. Now, to move on to what we work with Tim Anderson, who does Original Strength, just a great guy. And one of the things that Tim has taught us is that he bases his stuff on the babies learning to crawl. And he talks about the vestibular system, if you just take your hands like this and slap someone's ears as hard as you can, if you break their eardrums, they'll be woozy for a bit. That's the vestibular system.
Okay, right.
Okay? I'm sure there's easier ways of learning it.
Don't demo or anything like that.
Yeah. But so one of the things we do is a lot of drills where we lead with the eyes and we roll, or we do little rocks on the ground, or we do our neck work, we do rolls, we do...
I loved all that. I found some creaky places.
Easy crawls, all kinds of stuff. Very simple stuff, nothing fancy. People do this thing called foam rolling all the time, and our joke in our gym is that we have the world's largest roller. It's called the Earth, and so we roll. We do our foam rolling on the ground. So we roll. So we rolled for quite a bit.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe this feeling it was getting through the spine. It was like mobility. It was like sneaky mobility, nearly.
Sneaky mobility, sneaky flexibility, but it moves that. Okay, we have a shaker plate downstairs. We got rollers in the gym. We have everything, but really, if I can get you to roll on the ground, Turkish get-ups, rolling, whatever, all those weird things, the vestibular system. Adrian Craddock, he's a young man from Galway. The first time he came to my gym, the old gym, we made him tumble, jet lag tumbling, and he ended up vomiting in a bucket because this vestibular system got beat to hell. But also you'll notice when you roll, a lot of those aches and cranks and it hurts my shoulder. Oh, you do a couple of shoulder rolls, and all of a sudden that shoulder doesn't hurt anymore. Now, is that the lymphatic system? Is that getting things pushed? I don't know. But groundwork, I think, is the missing answer. Now, we can go all new age and say that, Earth's electronic field is vibrating through you, and I'm sure that happens too. And I'm sure you can go online and buy a map that you can plug into the wall that does that for you too. But I personally just like the idea of rolling on the ground.
Well, the bottom line is, if this stuff works and helps, it works and helps. I always say this, that even modern up-to-date medicine, and I'm not pretending I have a clue about them, we don't really still fully understand the human body. So we need to go on sort of tried and tested things. If it helps, it helps. I was beat up going out there this morning after a couple of really tough days there at Jim Jones, and I went out and we rolled this morning, and I'm going to need to get a lot of that stuff and write it down because it was just brilliant. I just loved it. I just felt that I moved so well, and yeah, I'm really, really excited to bring, you know, well, every time I read or attend one of your courses, I pick up knowledge, but obviously just, you know, spend, you know, a good few days with you here. It's been a life-changing experience. I can't wait
But
to
you
bring it
notice,
back.
though, nothing we do is that, I mean, was anything that fancy?
No, not at all. Not at all. Simple and,
It's a dedication to doing it.
yeah, that's it.
If that's a point you might want, we are dedicated to doing what we say we're going to do, and that's very. I wouldn't say it's unusual. I mean, I'm certain, you know, neither of us is, you know, Adonis or anything, but we train very hard, very smart, and I'm 60. Next year I'll be 61, and I hopefully be doing it then
Yeah.
too. And I think, and really, I mean, I still would, you know, these young bucks who say all this stuff, let's just put a weight on the bar and see who snatches it.
Yeah.
'Cause I like my chances over it, no offense. You know, even injured and beat up after this last meet, I still lift more weights than most guys who are in their 20s.
Yeah.
You know, I am old, I know that, but the thing is dedication to the park bench.
Yep. That's
if,
it.
If you don't mind, the dedication to, and I guess what we're trying to say is come back every day. You never judge one workout. But today, didn't I give today an A grade?
Yep.
Yeah, I gave today an A grade because I came in thinking I'd be here and I ended up being here at the end of it.
Yeah.
I felt miles better at the end of it.
You were happy out, so did I too. And it's been great. I've trained with Dan, apart from the 2 days I was over at Jim Jones, trained with Dan each and every morning, and yeah, I've been punching the clock well the last few years and feeling better for it. And again, just the more we delve into this mindset of punching the clock and doing your park bench workouts, it just sinks in. So I think a message to you guys watching as well would be punch your clocks, you know. So I know, like for example, our gym, people come 2 and 3 times a week, you know. Some other days, go walking in nature, go attend a yoga class. You write a couple of funny things about your sort of yoga class, you'd attend that again. Do stuff that's enjoyable, it's going to keep you coming back every day. And I think that's a big part of what Dan's about. But if any of you, I'm sure you all have enjoyed Dan talk, you know, I'd really suggest you pick up his books. This one I just think is amazing. Before we go, and as I say, could easily be called The Art of Reasonableness. If you're a personal trainer watching and you haven't read Intervention, you have to. Even it's not just for trainers and athletes and people who care about training. It's absolutely amazing. And then what was the first book I read? Never Let Go. And again, that's a great one as well.
Yeah, Never Let Go and Before We Go. These are, the joke is they're the bathroom books. Each chapter is about the length of a bowel movement, and it's funny, they sell really well. But the books I like best are Intervention, Can You Go, and Now What? But people don't like, it's funny because that's how I coach. But people don't like that, the structure. They like the crazy, stupid experiments, the bad choices, the time I got hurt and we did this and it was stupid. People love those books. Whereas really, I'd rather you followed my systematic stuff. It's not as fun.
Yeah, but you know what? Anyone who's never read a book, maybe Before We Go or Never Let Go would be a good entryway. And as I said earlier, like you will laugh as you read because Dan's you know, you can tell he's a good literature background. He's very good at writing, and he writes the way he talks, and it's very enjoyable. But look, I can't thank you enough for having me stay with you.
He's been staying right up there, right? He's in that wing.
Yep, I've got my own wing. It's great. We've got the garage workout downstairs, and I dropped over to Jim Jones in the morning. I've been looked after, so I'll be really excited. We're going to try and nail something down, bring Dan over to Ireland for a couple of days next year, get a workshop going, which I know we're always popular. And thanks so much for coming on. I know a lot of the people were excited to hear it, and I just can't thank you enough. You're a great guy. Keep preaching the good word.
You bet.
Thanks
Absolutely.
so much.
Hey, great having you.
Good man.
He's a great man.
Thanks very much, guys. Catch you soon.